The train screamed once and kept going. She didn't stand, didn't chase. Just sat, hands folded over a faded satchel and her breath held tight in her chest. The steam cleared. He hadn't come. Cinders settled on the platform like ash after a fire. The crowd began to thin, Sunday-frocked wives gathering their children, freight men dragging crates, a couple with hands clasped too tightly to each other's sleeves. No one looked at her. Maybe they thought she'd get up eventually. She didn't. Her dress, maroon velvet once meant for church weddings, hung damp and wrinkled around her thick legs. One sleeve was torn at the seam. Her feet, bare and dust-bitten, were tucked beneath the bench as if hiding them might make her less visible. But shame like hers had a glow to it, loud as a gunshot in a prayer hall. They saw. They all saw. A boy snickered. His mother slapped his hand but didn't correct the words. "Why's she so fat, Mama? Ain't nobody gonna take her." Across the platform, Thomas Creed paused. He hadn't meant to stop. He'd sold his Colts already, his pockets heavy with coin and his conscience even heavier. He didn't need to get involved. But she looked like something the world had tried to throw away and failed. And he knew that feeling better than most. He approached slow. She didn't lift her head. He could see bruising just beneath her jawline, small, dark blooms like violets pressed too hard between pages. Her eyes, when she finally looked up, didn't ask for anything. That's what struck him most. He crouched beside the bench and laid a biscuit wrapped in flannel on the wooden slat beside her. "Not warm," he said, voice gravel-soft. "But it'll hold you upright a little longer." She stared at it, then at him. "You sellin' something?" she asked, voice hoarse. Thomas shook his head. "Just passing." She didn't answer. He didn't expect her to. Her fingers crept toward the biscuit, hovered, then retreated like she'd touched fire. Her body stiffened again. Thomas stood. "Name's Creed." She said nothing. Rain started like a whisper. Just one drop on his hat brim, then another. She finally lifted the satchel to her lap. It was small, ragged. A red ribbon tied around the handle. A frayed linen dress peeked from inside, and what looked like a wooden spoon with the initials HT carved into it. Maybe all she had. Thomas scanned the platform again. Just the last of the wagons now. One headed east, the other toward the trading post. He knew that post. He also knew what happened to girls left behind without protection. "You got someone coming?" he asked. She gave a soft laugh. It sounded like something breaking. He was supposed to. Thomas waited. She didn't explain. But she didn't need to. A rusted nail jutted from the bench slat near her hip. Her dress had caught on it. She didn't seem to notice. Or maybe she did and just didn't care anymore. "I come all the way from Georgia," she said. "Took a week and a half. Didn't eat some days, just so I could keep the dress clean." Her fingers picked at a loose thread on her sleeve. "They told me he was kind. Said he liked bigger women. Paid for the train and wrote 3 letters. Said I'd be a bride by June." Thomas didn't speak. "Guess he saw me and changed his mind," she said. "Didn't even step off the train." Thomas looked down the track. The engine smoke still ghosted in the distance. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated. He thought she wouldn't answer. Most folks clung to a name when everything else had been taken, but some let even that go, like an extra weight they couldn't carry anymore. Finally, she whispered, "Hallie." He sat beside her, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. The rain was steady now. It pattered on the roof overhead and ran in silver ribbons down the edges of the bench. "You been married before?" he asked. She turned her face slightly. "Once. Didn't last." "Why not?" Hallie didn't answer at first. Her hands curled around her satchel again. "He said I was barren. Told the neighbors. Had me pick cotton in August while he drank with his cousins. First time he hit me, I told myself it was stress. Second time, I buried his pistol where he'd never find it." Thomas nodded slowly. "Folks don't take kindly to women leaving their husbands. Not where I come from. But I left anyway. Thought I had another chance. Thomas reached down, tore the thread catching her dress from the nail, and handed it to her. Just a torn bit of cloth. You do, he said. She blinked, confused. You've got another chance. The station bell rang faintly in the distance. Some other train, some other stop. The world kept moving, even when people didn't. Hallie clutched the bit of cloth. Her hands trembled slightly. Maybe from the cold. Maybe not. Thomas stood. Looked down at her one last time, hat dripping, coat heavy with dust. My wagon's past the livery, he said. Got an empty seat. Ain't offering you nothin' you don't want. But I reckon the rain don't care much what folks think, and neither do I. She didn't respond. He walked away slow. Gave her time. Let the silence settle like snow. Then, quiet footsteps behind him. Barefoot. Hesitant. But coming. She caught up just past the water trough. You still want my name? She asked. He looked at her, eyes steady. Only if you still want it. Hallie opened her satchel. Pulled out a folded scrap of paper. Yellowed, creased, but dry. She handed it to him. It was a marriage certificate. Blank. Waiting. Thomas took it gently. And behind them, the rain began to wash the station clean. The wind picked up as they crossed the muddy road behind the station, the last bit of train smoke curling like a bad memory into the dusk. Hallie's dress dragged in the wet, snagging on stones and twigs, but she didn't complain. Thomas walked beside her, hat low, boots sinking into the muck with each step. He didn't offer his arm. She didn't ask. The town faded behind them. A lone dog barked from a porch. A window shut hard. She could feel the eyes even if she didn't see them, watching the fat black woman walking beside a white man who hadn't flinched at the weight of her silence. His wagon was tied to a post near the dry creek bed, the mule gone, the reins looped over the wheel. He untied the tarp and gestured. Ain't much. But it's dry. Hallie climbed in slowly, the boards creaking under her. The air smelled like wood shavings and rope. She sat near a sack of grain and wrapped her arms around herself as if she could hold herself together by will alone. He climbed in, lit a small lantern, and pulled out 2 biscuits. Still got one left, he said, holding it out. You should eat. I'm fine. Don't look it. She didn't answer. Just stared past him, into the open dusk. Her hair had come loose in the wind. He'd never seen someone look so proud while falling apart. Thomas leaned back against a barrel. I ain't the type to talk much, he said. But I figure if you're here, you deserve to know I ain't tryin' for anything. Just figured no one should be left in the rain with nowhere to go. Hallie glanced at him. You always help strangers? He hesitated. Used to think I shouldn't. Then my brother died in a flood. Took 3 days before anyone checked the creek. Thought maybe I should stop waitin' to be asked. That shut her up. Not with offense, but something softer. Like the ache of remembering someone you'd tried to forget. She shifted. You got land. Used to. Got a little patch now. Not enough for cattle, but enough for breathin'. Wife. Not anymore. She didn't press. He didn't elaborate. The lantern's light flickered, casting long, gold shadows over the wagon walls. Hallie finally took the biscuit, broke it in half, and chewed slow. He could hear her stomach working against pride. When the first coyote howl rose up from the ridge, she startled. Her eyes darted to the trees. I don't do well in the dark, she said, quiet. He stood. Cabin's not far. Half-hour walk. You want, I'll walk you there. Her eyes narrowed. And what'll I owe you when I get there? Nothing you don't give freely. She studied him. Then, with great care, she folded the rest of the biscuit into her satchel and nodded. The trail was slick. He offered his hand once. She took it without meeting his eyes, then dropped it the moment her feet found steadier ground. Still, she stayed close. The cabin sat like a secret in the pines, wood-slat walls, tin roof patched with burlap, and smoke curling thin from the chimney. Inside, the warmth hit her like a memory. Dry air, fire smell, a worn rug, one chair, one bed. He kicked off his boots. "Ain't much, like I said." She stepped in, dripping. Her dress clung to her hips, wet velvet dark as wine. She looked around, unsure. "I'll take the chair," he said. "You get the bed." She didn't move. "You sure?" He nodded once. She took off her shawl, laid it over the fireplace rail. A pale scar peeked from her shoulder where the sleeve had torn. He didn't ask. She climbed into the bed, still wearing the dress, still clutching the satchel. She turned her face to the wall. Thomas sat in the chair and closed his eyes. The fire popped. Rain tapped the tin roof above like restless fingers. Outside, the dark pressed against the windows. In the quiet, she whispered, "Do I embarrass you?" He opened his eyes. "What?" Back at the station. People stared. "Let 'em." Most men would have walked past. He didn't move. "You think I care what most men would have done?" She didn't answer. He shifted, leaned forward. "You think because you take up more space, you deserve less of it?" Her eyes shimmered, but she blinked it away. "I know what it's like," he said, "to be looked at and measured by what folks don't understand. And I ain't lookin' to measure you, just to see you." The words sat heavy between them. Morning didn't come quiet. Thunder cracked hard. She woke to the smell of fire and something warm near her feet. She blinked, sat up. Thomas was kneeling at the hearth, holding her shoes close to the coals. His shirt sleeves were rolled, arms lean but strong, hands weather-beaten. He didn't hear her at first. "You don't have to do that," she said. "I know," he said. "But if you're stayin', I'd rather your feet didn't freeze." She stared at him. In the stillness, her breath caught. Outside, the storm deepened. There was a knock at the door. Thomas stood slowly, his hand still wrapped around Hallie's half-dried shoes. The knock came again, firmer this time. He set the shoes down beside the fire, eyes never leaving the door. Hallie pulled the blanket up to her chest, heart pounding. The firelight caught the sheen of sweat on her upper lip. She knew that kind of knock. Not neighborly. Not curious. Demanding. A voice followed. Male, rough, practiced in authority. "Open up, Creed. We know she's in there." Thomas didn't reach for a weapon. Just ran a hand through his hair and sighed like a man used to being caught on the wrong side of decency. Hallie's voice trembled. "They can't take me. I didn't do nothin' wrong." He glanced at her. "No, you didn't." The door creaked as he opened it. 3 men stood outside. Rain lashed down around their shoulders, dripping from hat brims. One was the Reverend Thorne, his white collar soaked and crooked. The other 2 were hired hands from the stockyard, mean in the eyes and sharp at the elbows. The kind that kicked dogs for sport. "She here?" Thorne asked. Thomas didn't answer. "Woman named Hallie," the Reverend continued, loud enough for her to hear. "Property of a Mr. Clyde Tanner's, according to church records. She was promised in marriage. Paid fair. This here is abandonment. She's to be returned or fined." Hallie stepped out from behind the bed curtain. She didn't want to, but shame had long since become a second skin. She faced them barefoot, chin high, hands trembling only slightly. "Clyde never married me," she said. "He left me at the station. You were paid for. You were his," Thorne snapped. "That's a contract in the eyes of God." Thomas's voice came low and sharp. "That ain't God. That's ownership. Ain't the same." The Reverend's eyes narrowed. "You think taking her in makes you a hero, Creed? She's a fallen woman. What kind of man defends that?" Thomas stepped out onto the porch, rain soaking his shirt in seconds. He held something in his hand, a paper Hallie hadn't seen since she gave it to him. The marriage certificate. Still blank. "I'm not defendin' her," Thomas said. I'm asking her. That stunned even the Reverend. He turned back to Hallie, his eyes steady beneath the dripping brim. I got no riches, no church to bless it, but I'll give you my name if you want it. You don't have to say yes. You don't owe me. I just figure, if I can help unchain one soul in this godforsaken town, it ought to start now. Hallie's breath caught, not because he offered, but because he meant it. His voice didn't tremble. His hands didn't flinch. He wasn't saving her. He was offering to stand beside her. She stepped forward, still barefoot, water rising around her toes. The paper in his hand blurred in the rain, but the ink hadn't yet touched it. You sure? She asked, voice barely above a whisper. I'm sure if you are. She reached out, took the paper, took the pen. Her hand didn't shake. She wrote her name, slow, careful, across the line. Not her birth name. Not her married name. Just Hallie. The name she gave herself. Then she handed it back. Thomas signed beside hers. The rain didn't stop. The men didn't move. Thorne scowled. This won't be enough. She's still a stain on your house. Thomas stepped off the porch. The men flinched. I got no house to stain, he said. But I've got arms that can carry, and I've got a fire that don't ask who you used to be. He tore the certificate in half and tossed one piece at Thorne's feet. You want her? You come through me. For a moment, no one spoke. Then one of the hired hands cursed and stepped forward. Thomas moved like thunder. Quick, bone-deep, precise. One punch dropped the man into the mud. The other took a step back, hand to his belt. But Hallie's voice cut through the storm. I wouldn't, she said. She held the fireplace poker like she'd been born with it. Her arms didn't shake. Her jaw didn't move. The man backed away. The Reverend, wet and livid, turned without another word. They left. Thunder rolled low. Hallie dropped the poker and stared at her hands. They were still shaking. Thomas stood in the rain, blood on his knuckles, mud on his boots. He looked at her like he'd never seen her before. Not because she'd scared them off, but because she hadn't cowered. They didn't speak as he led her back inside. The fire cracked like it was proud of them. He fetched dry clothes from a chest, set them down without looking at her. She picked them up without a word. Later, she came out wearing his shirt, the sleeves rolled. The fabric clung to her curves. Her hair was pinned back with one of his old leather ties. She stood near the window, watching the last of the wagon wheels vanish down the trail. They'll come back, she said. I know. You could have let them take me. I know. She turned to him. Why didn't you? His answer came slow, careful. Because you were the only person I ever saw look back at me like I wasn't a mistake. The silence stretched between them, warm now, full. Outside, dawn broke like a secret too heavy to carry. And inside, the fire never died. Which city are you watching our video from? Please leave a comment. Please subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you.